Republicans need to listen to the fact that their own voters don't want this to happen. Republicans' pollster, Trump's pollster, has reported that a majority of Trump voters, Republican voters, are against Medicaid cuts. 2/3 of swing voters are against Medicaid cuts. And what Fabrizio Ward said is it's because 40% of the people, their families utilize it. It is a working family health insurance program. And on here, you could go see in Schreikert's district all the people that will be hurt, and Don Bacon, who's talking about against this, but I don't see him voting against it, even though so many of his people will be hurt. Next door to me in Colorado 8, that district, the number of people that will be hurt. I mean, across the board, people will be hurt, and people in rural districts will be hurt more than others, like my district, where 75% of the women giving birth use Medicaid for their health insurance. So it is something to fight for. And with that, I yield back, Madam. Oh, wait a minute. Do you want some time?
Mr. Negussi already had rules in this budget for them. I think we need to move on.
Notwithstanding the comment that my colleague from New Mexico made regarding the chairwoman's participation in 2010, for 45 minutes you spoke in this committee. 45 minutes. I spoke for 15.
Yeah, well, that was a one-time deal. I think it's time. I think it.
So that's the new rule in the committee.
I think 15 minutes gets it.
Okay.
And I'm especially.
Just for the record, that's the new rule. And when the Democrats are in the majority, I hope
It's
Chairman
not-
McGovern intends to enforce it, because for decades,
It's not
the chair
the
of
new
this
rule.
committee has never shut down debate. And the chairwoman spoke for hours, 45 minutes on one occasion, an hour on another occasion. In this committee, we have the dates. And because I want to talk for 17 minutes, I want an extra 2 minutes to ask the chairman a question. But that's fine. Again, another precedent broken. So I'm happy to
And I think,
yield back.
Madam Chair, it's part of the debate that we are engaged.
I will tell. I want to say something. I would be much more tolerant of what you are saying if you weren't distorting what this resolution does. And I want to tell you, I believe we're held accountable long-term for scaring people for something that is not in this bill.
So, Madam Chair, because I think I still do have time, I still hold the floor, but I think that this is exactly the reason why we need to discuss. You have a version and a perspective on this bill, which you and your 9 Republicans on the committee can debate and can raise and can ask the questions.
Well,
we have a different perspective and viewpoint on the bill, which we want to raise. And so it's precisely because we have differing viewpoints, and I respect that your viewpoint is one. And so my role on behalf of my constituents is to bring our perspective. Yours is to bring yours.
Well,
if we agreed, we would.
Ms. Leisure-Fernandez, if you could go into this resolution and say, specifically, you're cutting, as the chairman said, you cannot show that specific people are going to be hurt. Specific people are going to be hurt. You know, we could stay here all day and debate. I don't think it's a good use of our time. And we are taking time. We're making a record of the time so that we can show how much time is used by each side, even though you are in the minority. And of course, elections have consequences, as President Obama told us a long time ago. So I think it's past time for us to move on to the next witness. To the next member.
I just had a question how Mr. Roy feels about this, and Mr. Norman, because they have rarely been constrained by 5 minutes or 10 minutes or
It's not your time, Ms.
or an
Scanlon.
hour.
It's not your time to ask a question.
So, and what?
Nothing, I'm just clarifying that, yeah, so I'm not able to, you're not going to recognize Ms. Ledger Fernandez yielding me for a few minutes to ask Chairman Arrington a question.
I'll recognize Ms. Ledger Fernandez to continue to ask a question. But fairly soon, again, I think we need to move on.
Can you tell me what the question you was going to ask, Representative?
Yeah, I don't
Chairman
understand.
Arrington?
You're saying I should give her the question so she can ask it?
I mean, it'd be a lot easier if you just let him ask the question.
Are you yielding to
I am
Mr.?
yielding to.
All right,
colleague
Mr.
from
Neguse,
Colorado.
ask your question.
Thank you very much, Madam
I
Chair,
thank the
for allowing
Chairwoman,
that.
and I thank my colleague from New Mexico. Chairman Arrington, I just want to drill down a bit on the last comments that Ms. Ledger Fernandez made, and obviously we've had a lot of debate today about Medicaid. And I take it your position is one you've already articulated, that you concur with some of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle who have claimed that there would be no cuts to Medicaid benefits, right? That's what essentially your position?
Yeah.
Okay. You're familiar with an amendment that was offered in the Senate to this particular resolution that was supported by 3 Republican senators, Senator Hawley, Senator Mischaracterization, and Senator Collins, to protect Medicaid? Are you generally familiar?
Generally, yes, I am. I don't know the language specifically.
And you understand that amendment failed?
Yes, I do.
I can represent to you it failed.
Yeah.
Republicans voted against it,
Yeah.
with the exception of those 3 Republicans and all Senate Democrats. If you have no intention of cutting Medicaid, then why not agree to the language protecting Medicaid? Seems like it would be pretty non-controversial.
To be very frank, it's because, and you're a friend,
Sure.
and she's my neighbor, but because you all have already in this hearing, and for weeks, if not months prior to, and you will continue to mischaracterize making that program run more efficiently, rooting out waste and fraud, structuring the program to actually support the most vulnerable as a cut. And there's just, I mean, this hearing is a great example of why there's a breakdown in trust, because Ms. Fernandez just talked about the limbs of our citizens being torn off of their bodies and Republicans watching them bleed out. That is a gross mischaracterization, I think you would agree,
I hear
of
you.
what our intentions are.
my-
But that's the reason why
I hear
we
you.
don't play
But
these games
all I'm
about.
suggesting to you is
Yeah.
Senator Hawley and Senator Mischaracterization,
Yeah.
these are Republican senators,
Yeah.
they're not Democrats, have some pretty simple language.
Yeah, was it Medicaid benefits or was it?
That's what I'm asking.
Medicaid,
anyways.
no, I don't know.
Benefits. I'm saying, you have the
We've
ability-
committed to that. We have committed to
Why not put it in
no
the
cuts.
bill?
We're accountable for what we commit to
Then why
and
put
promise
everything
and
else in
follow
the bill?
through on.
This is my point.
Yeah.
Why, you make much of the instructions that you've
Yeah.
designed. Well,
Yes.
give me a moment here,
Yeah.
and the various ways in which you believe the budget ought to be structured. And it just strikes me that the one quote-unquote promise that you feel really passionate about today, about with respect to Medicaid benefits, happens to be conveniently the one promise that Republicans refuse to put in the text of the instructions. Why not? It would be pretty simple. You could tell the American public, look, we've got it. No cuts to Medicaid. It's
I
in
can
the
tell you,
document, but you all won't do it.
I can tell you, let me just finish the thought process here, because my friends and colleagues who happen to be Democrats will pervert, twist, contort, and anything we say on Medicaid or any other government entitlement program to serve the purpose, the political purposes of using it as a cudgel to beat on our party, our colleagues, when in fact, it is simply addressing, like I've said before, the inefficiencies of program integrity.
I hear you. I hear you.
Okay.
And I would just say, and I hear your criticism, but my point is.
And I watched
you
it
all
on
have been-
display today.
You all have been very crystal clear about a lot in this bill.
Yeah.
Right? And my simple point is this notion that you won't put in the bill that you're not going to gut Medicaid because you believe that if you do so, Democrats will criticize the bill as gutting Medicaid. And so therefore, you made a decision
You will.
to not put, no, I
I
understand.
don't mean
but
you,
I hear
but
you.
if we do, like I mentioned to Mr.
no,
McGovern,
I
look at
wasn't
the
finished.
Medicaid rolls twice
I hear you,
instead
Mr.
of.
Chairman, but
Yeah.
I wasn't finished.
Yeah.
I'm just simply suggesting a lot
Yeah.
simpler, if you feel so passionately about not cutting
Yeah.
Medicaid benefits, to put that in the bill.
Yeah.
So,
I'll yield
One
back.
question, and I think
thank you,
it's time.
thank you, and I will finish with this, Chairman.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. This is the Rules Committee, and we have a custom here of allowing for
I've heard
debate.
this
And we are now dealing in an emergency rules meeting on a budget that, quite frankly, we think has devastating impacts for the people we represent. And if we're not going to be able to have a thorough debate and be able to say what's on our mind, then I think we should move to adjourn. I move to adjourn.
Will the clerk call the roll? The question is on the motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no.
No. That's for a roll call.
Mr. McGovern has asked for a roll call vote. The clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Fishbach. Mrs. Fishbach, no. Mr. Norman. Mr. Norman, no. Mr. Roy. Mr. Roy, no. Mrs. Houchin. Mr. Langworthy. Mr. Langworthy, no. Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, no. Mr. Griffith. Mr. Griffith, no. Mr. Jack.
No.
Mr. Jack, no. Mr. McGovern.
Aye.
Mr. McGovern, aye. Ms. Scanlon. Aye. Ms. Scanlon, aye. Mr. Neguse. Mr. Neguse, aye. Ms. Leger Fernandez. Aye. Ms. Leger Fernandez, aye. Madam Chair.
No.
Madam Chair, no.
Clerk will announce the total.
4 yeas, 8 nays.
The amendment is not agreed to. The motion to adjourn is not agreed to.
Madam Chair, I believe I had the floor, and I'll finish up.
I'm sorry, Ms.
I believe I had the floor, and I will, the ranking member is, do you yield back to me? So I just want to say, Chairman Arrington, that I don't think you've heard anybody say today that we are against cutting fraud or abuse or making things more efficient. We are very in favor of making things efficient. We are against cutting the services that my neighbors across the border rely on, that I know you care about. You know, my New Mexico citizens, it's a region, we're separated by a border, but not by values, I believe. So that's why, we will be asking for protections for Medicaid services. We are not against improving CMS. We are not against improving efficiency, but we do want very specific protections. We'd love to get 4 Republicans doing what the 3 Republicans did in the Senate, which is say, just that thing, we will protect Medicaid services. We'd love to get 4 Republicans saying, we want to vote on Trump's tariffs. If you're for the tariffs, you're for the tariffs. If you're not, you're not. Let people vote on it. We'd love to move these things to the floor of the House, where we could have those continued debates on the floor of the House to let people vote for them. But it is about the services, and it's about the people who we meet with every day that we care about. And that's why we're doing that. I can tell you that's why I'm doing that, not to beat up just on Republicans.
Yeah.
I'm a very bipartisan person. Rules is differently, but most of my bills are bipartisan. I have I have a lot of Republicans in my district. I'm a D3 district.
Yes, you
it's
do.
a very bipartisan district. I work in a very bipartisan manner. So I can assure you that it's to beat up on the policy, not on your party.
Sure.
So with that,
May I respond?
sure.
Cutting waste and in all of its forms should be bipartisan. But when you all were running your partisan reconciliation bill called the Inflation Reduction Act, I didn't hear one single recommendation. I hear you want to save. You say, if you can find it, I'm with you. We're all for that. We're all for that. But I didn't see anything in the Inflation Reduction Act that talked about program integrity, rooting out waste and fraud, not one jot or tittle in that huge tax and spending bill. I also, by the way, after listening to what I think is false and empty rhetoric on taxing the rich, how much did y'all raise the taxes on the rich when you passed the IRA? What did you do for the billionaires? Did y'all raise their taxes to pay for the price fixing on drugs or any of the other things? Did y'all raise taxes on the rich? What did you do with the time? If y'all feel so strongly about this, where was the waste, fraud, and abuse reforms in the IRA, and where were the tax hikes on the rich? That's why I find this to not be as credible of a debate as I would like it to be. I certainly think there's sincerely held views that differ, but when I'm hearing about limbs being ripped off and people bleeding out, and I hear we all care about waste, but y'all never put any provision that deals with the waste. You expand the IRS by 80 billion agents, but anyway, I digress. I hear a lot of lip service, a consensus around waste, but I see no action. And then when we try to take action, we are met with the same old scare tactics about people's limbs being ripped off. And it's unfortunate, but I'm undeterred. I mean, and I think my colleagues are too, just completely, because we do have Medicaid beneficiaries in our district, and we want to fight to preserve for our vulnerable Americans this important program that they rely on, and to ensure that it persists into the future for future struggling and working people that need it. But we also have a lot of taxpayers in our district. You and I do. We share a border, but like you said, we don't share, we share a border, but we have similar values. My folks and your folks in eastern New Mexico want us to be stewards of of their hard-earned tax dollars. And for us to not talk about waste and not try to right-size the bloat in this people's government would be a huge missed opportunity. And we miss that opportunity regularly because we hear the bylines and the mischaracterizations about what you just said, and they're not true, and we end up just perpetuating this massively inefficient government at the expense of taxpayers who are paying the freight on all of it. That's unfortunate.
Thank you. And as we know that, I think it was very appropriate for you to speak as long as you wanted on this issue. So it's oftentimes that it's not, we were speaking, we were giving our witnesses the time to explain their position.
I appreciate that.
I would say that we did receive over $1 billion out of the IRA in tax revenue because of the audits going against fraud and abuse of those. So that's something that we were doing. So I think we have done. And I would also point out that in the document that I entered into the record, the Medicaid improper payment rate actually went down from 8.58% in 23 to 5.09% in 24. So there is actually documentation of an effort to increase the efficiency. And once again, this is improper payment, which is not fraud and abuse, but even that, we need to make things more efficient. I would love it if we cut out some of the, regulatory overburden so it's easier for people to get paid for the patient care that they get. Because the other thing we know is Medicare is one of the cheapest, right? Providers don't Medicaid is one of the cheapest ways of getting health care. Those who are willing to take Medicaid patients get reimbursed less than they do if you take a Medicare patient. They get reimbursed less than if you take a private insurance patient. So we know it's a very lean, and I'm very grateful to those providers who are willing to take the Medicaid patients, because there isn't a lot of fat in that program. But with that, is there anything else? With that, Madam Chair, I yield back. And thank you for the debate and the conversation.
Thank you,
Chairman
Ms. Fernandez.
Arrington.